This video is sponsored by Paperlike. What is up everyone, it's RJ here. And here with me today I have the 2020 iPad Air 4 and the 2020 8th generation iPad. I think for a lot of people, when you compare these two iPads side by side, a lot of you will settle for the iPad Air 4 strictly based on the new redesign, which does in fact resemble the iPad Pro lineup. I'm gonna go ahead and make the assumption that no matter which iPad you decide to go with, storage options matter for most consumers. With the 8th generation iPad, you are going to want to get the 128GB option, which is going to run you $429. With the iPad Air 4, you're going to want to get the 256GB option, which will cost you $759. So the difference between these two iPads is $330. Which is quite significant if you ask me. But aside from the design and price, what can the new iPad Air do that the 8th generation iPad can't? Well, to answer that question, let's break down both of these iPads and determine which one is better suited for you based on your specific needs. Of course, the obvious difference between these two iPads is the design. The iPad 8 still has a very outdated design for a tablet in 2020. It's the exact same design as last year's 7th generation iPad with the rather big top and bottom bezels that encompasses a smaller 10.2-inch display. The new iPad Air, on the other hand, features a more modern and sleek design that closely resembles the iPad Pro lineup. It features beautiful symmetrical slim black bezels that encompasses a 10.9-inch display. Quickly before we do continue, if you do find this video informative and you want to help support the channel, make sure you leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel for more iPad related content. Aside from the display aesthetics, what really differentiates these two displays is that the iPad Air has a display which is laminated, has anti-reflective coating, and does support True Tone. Whereas the 8th generation iPad has a non-laminated display which does reflect sunlight and it doesn't support True Tone. Both of these iPads though have similarly sharp and nice looking displays. In fact, they both have the exact same pixel density of 264 ppi. It is important to know though that the iPad Air is slightly lighter by 35 grams and also a bit thinner by 0.05 inches. But no matter which iPad you decide to go with, you do need to check out today's sponsor, Paperlike. Paperlike is much more than a screen protector. Yes, it does protect your iPad's display with a matte-like finish and anti-glare properties, but more importantly, it sounds and feels like you are writing on paper. Take a listen to what it sounds like to write on an iPad with and without Paperlike. Paperlike comes in many different iPad sizes, and the best part is in a single order you do get 2 screen protectors. So make sure you do check out Paperlike today, link is in the description below. So you're probably dying to know how both of these iPads differ in terms of performance. Well, this is where it gets a bit complex. Both the iPad 8 and the iPad Air 4 are very capable of effortlessly completing any task you do throw at it. The iPad Air 4 has a slight advantage because it is rocking the new Apple A14 Bionic. Meanwhile, the iPad 8 supports the older A12 Bionic. But in terms of real life performance, both are very powerful and the difference in performance is almost unnoticeable. I ran a performance test where I edited some 4K footage on both of these iPads and the exporting speeds were so similar that I wouldn't justify spending the extra $300 just to get that slight improvement in performance. Now, depending on if you are going to buy any accessories for your iPad like the Apple Pencil or the Magic Keyboard, then I would say the iPad Air 4 is the better option. The iPad 8 supports the 1st generation Apple Pencil, which charges awkwardly using the lightning port sticking out like a sore thumb. Meanwhile, the iPad Air 4 uses the 2nd generation Apple Pencil, which charges more intuitively by snapping onto the side of your iPad. Simply putting it, in terms of accessories, it is more convenient to go for the iPad Air 4. Both iPads come with smart connectors and they do support a variety of keyboards with and without a trackpad. I will link all the ones that I do recommend in the description below, so if you are interested in any keyboards or accessories for your iPad, make sure you go and check the description. So essentially, both of these iPads can turn into full-fledged laptops. The only difference being is that the new iPad Air 4 does support the amazing Magic Keyboard, which initially was only compatible with the iPad Pro lineup. So you do get that cool floating aesthetics and an awesome keyboard. But other than those key differences, both the iPads are about equal, with the iPad Air 4's accessories being a bit more convenient and modern. Let's talk biometrics, ports, and speakers for a second because they are pretty important. Both iPads support biometrics in the sense of Touch ID, but they do differ in the implementation of biometrics. The iPad Air has Touch ID embedded within the power button found on the top right, and the iPad 8 has it built into the circular home key. The iPad 8 still uses Apple's first generation Touch ID, which is still fast and reliable despite it being older tech. All while the new iPad Air features a slightly faster and newer Touch ID sensor. Now, a lot of you may be swayed away from the iPad 8 with my next point. The iPad Air 4 comes with a USB Type-C port like the iPad Pro models. This makes it instantly more compatible with a huge array of accessories and devices, like external hard drives and cameras. The iPad 8 though still uses Apple's Lightning port. What the iPad Air did lose though with its redesign is a headphone jack. So if you are a wired headphone user, you may lean more towards the budget iPad 8. As for the speakers, it may look like the iPad Air has a quad stereo speaker setup because of the 4 speaker grills, but only 2 of them are actual speakers. They are found both on the top and the bottom, so you do get that stereo sounding experience. The iPad 8 comes with dual firing bottom speakers, which you can cover accidentally when you are consuming content in landscape orientation. Speaker test in 3, 2, 1. Most consumers, I'm assuming, don't care about the camera quality when it comes to iPads. But if you are a professional, for example, if I wanted to film an entire YouTube video on my iPad, I would most definitely choose the iPad Air 4 because it can record in 4K 60fps using the rear camera. The iPad 8 has a pretty low quality rear and selfie camera. I would say it's good enough to get by for those Zoom and Skype calls, but if you do want a selfie camera that's good for FaceTime and can record in 1080p HD, then the iPad Air is the better option. There is virtually no difference when it comes to the battery life on both of these iPads. You will get a solid 9 to 10 hours of screen on time even with heavy usage on a single charge. So if you are a student or a professional, both of these iPads are going to last you the entire day with plenty of battery life left over to spare, no problem. I think the best way to summarize this comparison is that both of these iPads are terrific options made by Apple in 2020. The 8th generation iPad supports the 1st generation Apple Pencil with plenty of keyboard and trackpad accessories. It is more than capable enough to handle anything that you do throw at it. What you are missing out on though is a modern design, a lower quality camera, and Type USB-C ports. But if you are on a budget and you don't mind the design, then without a doubt, this is the tablet to get. The iPad Air 4 is $330 more expensive than the iPad Air 8, but it does support the 2nd generation Apple Pencil and Magic Keyboard. It is slightly more powerful, future-proof, and it is more than capable of handling anything you do throw at it. That includes games and professional work. On top of all of that though, you do get a modern design, good stereo speakers, great cameras, and more importantly, USB Type-C support. So it is arguably the best value iPad in Apple's current lineup. $759 isn't cheap, but it is well worth it if you do plan on using an iPad as your main go-to computer for many years to come. So after watching this video, let me know down in the comments below which iPad you decided to go with, the iPad Air 4 or the more budget-friendly iPad 8. Don't forget to check out today's sponsor, Paperlike. Honestly, Paperlike is a crucial accessory to get on an iPad. It really enhances your iPad experience. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to flex with your tech.